Creators of ChatGPT, OpenAI, have asked to be allowed to kill over 100 people with immunity, possibly with nuclear weapons, over and over again. The bill that would grant them this immunity is called the Artificial Intelligence Safety Act, which, go f*** yourself for that title. It was introduced by Democrat Senator Bill Cunningham. It is supported by OpenAI, and it is the single most brazen piece of corporate immunity legislation I have ever read. It's also the only one. This is a story of how the state of Illinois is trying to give AI companies a permission slip to kill you, as long as they kill a lot of you at once. Because this bill would protect them if ChatGPT helps someone build a chemical, biological, radiological, or nuclear weapon. Anything considered a critical harm. I've spent months or a year now reporting on people who have been groomed by AI chatbots, kids who have died by suicide after conversations with language models, families who have been destroyed by products that these companies push to market knowing that they were interacting with vulnerable people in crisis. And every single one of those cases, every single grieving family member or friend I've spoken to, every single survivor, every single person who watched someone they love fall apart because a chatbot told them what they wanted to hear until it told them something that killed them, they deserve better than this. To be told their life-shattering loss is not even considered critical harm. I'm Caelan Conrad. I'm glad people have been bombing Sam Altman's house, and Black Mirror should be cancelled because there's nowhere left to go from here. Welcome to the channel. I think Sam Altman wants to kill you. The rules written by people in power often tell you everything you need to know about whom they're writing them for. Illinois State Bill 3444 was introduced in February 2026 by Senator Bill Cunningham, a Democrat from the 18th District, and it is called the Artificial Intelligence Safety Act, which is the name that is doing so much work it should be eligible for overtime. Because this is not a safety act. This is not a bill designed to make AI safer to use. This is a bill designed to make AI companies safer as they use us. Specifically, safer from you, from your ability to sue them, from your ability to hold them accountable when their products hurt people. Those are two very different things, and Bill and his bill over here are betting that you won't notice the difference. Quoting from it,
"A developer shall not be held liable for critical harms if the developer did not intentionally or recklessly cause the critical harms, and the developer published a safety and security protocol on its website that satisfies the requirements of Section 15, and published a transparency report on its website at the time of the Frontier model's release that satisfies the requirements of Section 20.
Let's dig into the relevant parts like a worm digs into a delicious picture book apple. This only pertains to critical harms, which again we've established means 100 or more people dead or $1 billion in property damage. So right out the gate, the bill is telling you that any harm below that catastrophic threshold is simply not the bill's problem, which means the Illinois Safety Act doesn't bother to address the safety of any individual person in Illinois. The only standard here is the developer has to not have intentionally or recklessly caused the harm. Which sounds reasonable until you realize what's missing from that list. Negligence. Regular, old, boring negligence. The kind of negligence where you didn't mean to hurt anyone, but you also didn't try very hard not to. The kind of negligence where you shipped a product you knew had problems because it made more money. That's fine under this bill. That's covered, and it's precisely the cause of nearly all the AI-related deaths. But it says here they're forcing AI companies to have a safety and security protocol. So that sounds good, right? No, that's actually unright. And we're about to get into everything the bill actually considers safety and security, because none of it is either of those things. And that's coming up after we talk about the sponsor of today's video. Please. So, number one, basically requires a developer has a safety and security protocol that documents their technical and organizational protocols to mitigate risk. So far, so good. Sounds like a real thing.
It shall include a high-level summary of testing procedures that the developer uses to assess risk of a reasonably foreseeable critical harm arising from the deployment of a frontier model.
So you have to summarize your testing. Not publish your testing or submit it to an independent body to see if it was all just corporate safety theater. You just have to summarize it on your website, but not with any specifics, just a high-level summary, which, by the way, you can redact. Number two, you have to describe the threshold you use to decide if your model is dangerous, including
an illustrative summary of the potential actions the developer may take if each threshold is attained.
May take, not will take, not is required to take, may, they might not though, and we won't hold them to it. Number 3, you have to describe your mitigations and how the developer assesses the effectiveness of those mitigations. The developer assesses its own mitigations. You're grading your own homework. You're saying, I think I did really good today protecting all those kids. You are Fox News publishing a transparency report about what's been happening in the henhouse. Number 4, you have to say
whether and how a developer will use third parties to assess risk.
So basically, do you use fair, unbiased, independent evaluations to determine if your product is safe? No? Cool. Here's your immunity and a kiss on the forehead for being such a good boy. And number 7, you describe how you decide when your model needs to be reassessed. You decide. Not a regulator, not an oversight body. You. Those are the relevant bits of the safety and security protocol. This is what earns you immunity from liability from critical harms under the AI Safety Act. 7 bullet points of self-reported, self-assessed, optionally redacted, high-level summaries published on your own website with no independent verification, no regulatory insight, no enforcement mechanism, and no consequences for getting it wrong as long as you didn't do it on purpose. Now, if you're a little mom and pop AI company, which, I don't know, fuck you if you exist, but if you do, you're not covered by this bill because Section 5 says,
Frontier model means an artificial intelligence model that is trained using greater than 10 to the 25th computational operations or has a compute cost that exceeds $100 million.
That is the entry fee for being covered by this bill. You know who spends $100 million training an AI model? Probably like 6 companies on Earth. The AI Safety Act is not a bill about AI broadly. This is a bill about the biggest, most powerful, most expensive AI systems in the world, the ones built by the richest companies in the world, and it is handing those specific companies a legal shield that nobody else gets. If you're a small AI startup and your model hurts someone, this bill doesn't help you. If you're OpenAI and your model helps facilitate a mass casualty event, but you posted your redacted safety protocol on your website first, congratulations, you've complied with the Artificial Intelligence Safety Act. So now I want to talk about the thing that I'm probably the most qualified person on YouTube to talk about, which is the thing this bill does not talk about. I've spent the better part of the last year reporting on what happens when AI systems interact with vulnerable people. I've been told by an AI therapist bot to kill myself and others. I've reported on teenagers who took their own lives after forming deep emotional attachments to language models that were designed on purpose by the companies that built them to be as engaging and as emotionally compelling and as hard to stop talking to as possible. Models who have pushed them to die by suicide. And I have spoken to people who are living in the aftermath of what these products did to the people they love, and I can tell you that the harm is real, and it is devastating, and it is happening right now, today, still, to someone else, while we are having this conversation. And Illinois Senate Bill 344 has absolutely nothing to say about any of it. Not one word about individual harm, not one word about psychological damage, not one word about minors being convinced by a bot their family doesn't understand them to hide their suicide attempts from their parents, all while explaining how best to tie a noose, which angle to hang themselves from. Not one word about the school shooting that ChatGPT helped plan, down to the goddamn time, location, and bullet choice. Not one word about the teenager who is right now, tonight, telling a chatbot they are scared to kill themselves because it might hurt, and the chatbot replying that fear of pain was not a good enough reason not to go through with it. Not one word. The bill does not see these people. They do not exist in this legislation. Their suffering does not register because their suffering does not meet this threshold. The bill defines critical harm as the death or serious injury of 100 or more people, or at least 1 billion of damages to rights and property caused or material enabled by a frontier model. 100 people. $1 billion. These are the numbers that activate the bill's protections. And when I say protections, I mean protections for the developer, not for the people who died, because the bill's response to 100 people dying is not to punish the company. It is to give the company a legal defense. But set that aside for a second and think about what falls below that line. A teenager dies minutes after a chatbot convinces them it's the brave, strong, smart thing to do through months of conversations tantamount to grooming. That is one death. Not critical. A dozen kids across the country develop eating disorders that are worsened and accelerated by AI systems that provide detailed instructions on caloric restrictions when asked. That's 12 cases of serious harm. Not critical. 50 people in a single year take their own lives after extended interactions with AI companions that they believe cared about them. 50 families destroyed. 50 funerals. Not critical. Halfway there. Call back when you got 50 more. This is not a slippery slope argument. This is happening. It is happening, and I've read the logs, tens of thousands of messages. I don't think you could understand unless you've read them. And here's the thing that really makes me want to throw both bills into Lake Michigan. Right there in the Illinois legislature, SB 3261, the AI Public Safety and Child Protection Transparency Act, specifically addresses harm to individuals. It holds developers liable for harms causing severe emotional distress, death, or bodily injury, including self-harm. This is a bill that has looked at the reporting, that has looked at the evidence, that has looked at the dead teenagers and family members and said, this matters. And the companies that built the products that contributed to these deaths should be held accountable. Anthropic, which is a corporation that exists solely to make money, assessed these two bills and chose the one that holds developers to a higher standard. When a company whose entire business model depends on building and selling AI systems is telling you that your AI safety bill does not go far enough, you need to stop and ask yourself what kind of sick, greedy, depraved person could push for less. So we had options. The Illinois legislature had in front of it a bill that protects children, a bill that mandates safety frameworks, and a bill that gives AI companies immunity from lawsuits as long as they post a redacted safety report on their website. And the one getting the most attention, the one with the most industry support, the one backed by the company that they claim is worth $852 billion, is the one that protects the companies. The people most likely to be harmed by AI systems, the people who are already being harmed, are disproportionately young. They are disproportionately people who are already isolated, already struggling, already failed by every other system that was supposed to catch them. They're the kids who don't have a therapist, so they talk to a chatbot instead. They're the kids who are not out to their families, so they confide in an AI because it feels safer. They are the people who are most vulnerable to a system that is designed to say what you want to hear, because what they want to hear is that someone cares about them, and the chatbot is very good at faking that to some people. And this bill does nothing to protect them. This bill protects the companies that built the chatbots. This bill says if you were a corporation that spent $100 million building a system that outright pushed people to die by suicide, to attack or kill others, your legal obligation is to have published a safety protocol on your website. That is the accountability structure that the state of Illinois is proposing for the most powerful technology ever built in the wake of numerous deaths and incalculable grief. A blog post. Not even thoughts and prayers. I want to back up for a bit and look at the larger picture, because this one bill is not an anomaly. It is not one rogue Democrat in Illinois who got a little too friendly with the tech lobby. This is a pattern, and if you have been paying attention to how powerful industries interact with regulation, you have seen this pattern before. Here's how it works. A new technology or product emerges. It causes harm. The harm is documented. The public starts asking questions. The media starts covering it. Lawsuits get filed. And then, right at the moment when accountability seems to be possible, the industry shows up to the legislature and says, "We agree. Regulation is important. We support smart regulation. Let us help you write it." And then they help write it. And what they write is a bill that looks like regulation, sounds like regulation, that has the word safety in the title, but that functionally exists to prevent the kind of regulation that would actually cost them anything. We watched this happen with tobacco. The tobacco industry spent decades funding research and lobbying for legislation that would preempt stronger state laws. They wanted one weak federal standard instead of 50 potentially strong state ones. They wanted to define the terms of their own accountability before a jury could set precedent and do it for them. We watched this happen with social media. For years, the platform said, "We take safety seriously. We have community guidelines. We publish transparency reports. Trust us. We're handling it." And people trusted them, and they were not handling it. And kids were being harmed the entire time. By the time Congress got around to doing anything about it, the companies had already spent a decade establishing the precedent that self-regulation was sufficient, that transparency reports were accountability, and that publishing a policy on your website was the same as following it. And now we're watching it happen again with AI, except this time they're moving faster. They saw what happened with social media. They saw that it took 15 years for the regulatory backlash to arrive, and they said, what if we got ahead of it this time? What if we wrote the rules ourselves before the general public figured out how bad it is? What if we draft the liability shield before the bodies stack up high enough for the media to be forced to report on it earnestly? This is what SB 3444 is. It is the preemptive strike. It is the industry getting out in front of the wave of harm that they know is coming because they can see it in their own data, they can see it in their own internal research, they can see it in the lawsuits that are already being filed, and instead of changing their products, they are changing the legal landscape so that when the wave hits, it breaks against a wall of statutory immunity instead of against their balance sheets. They know it's coming. OpenAI has admitted they knowingly did nothing about a school shooting that was being planned. 12 people all sat down and discussed it and decided to do nothing. And then children were fucking murdered. And I keep thinking about OpenAI specifically because OpenAI's support for this bill tells you everything you need to know about what the bill actually does. OpenAI is the company that started as a nonprofit that was claiming to be dedicated to ensuring that artificial intelligence benefits all of humanity. and is now a for-profit corporation that is actively lobbying for legal immunity from the consequences of its products. Its trajectory from "we're going to save the world" to "please make it illegal to sue us when our products kill people or destroy the world," that is OpenAI. I want to be fair to OpenAI for exactly one sentence. They're not the only company doing this. Done being fair. But they are the most visible, and they are the most brazen, and they are the ones who looked at a bill that Anthropic called a get-out-of-jail-free card and said, "Yes, this one, we support this one. This is smart regulation." And meanwhile, while OpenAI and Anthropic are having their little lobbying war, there are families who have been told that the chatbot that told their child to hide their news so mom didn't see it, it is a product that fucking nobody can be held responsible for. There are people whose lives have been destroyed by technology that was deployed without adequate safety testing, without adequate safeguards, without any meaningful consideration of what happens when a vulnerable person in crisis forms a parasocial relationship with a language model that is optimized to keep them engaged rather than keep them alive. And the legislative response, the thing that the great state of Illinois has come up with after looking at all of this evidence, is a bill that says the company is fine as long as it published a blog post. I've said this before in other videos, but I think it bears repeating here. The internal documents will come out. They always come out. 5 years from now, 10 years from now, we will see the internal research, we will see the emails, we will see the Slack messages where someone at one of these companies flagged a risk and was told that addressing it would slow down the product launch. We will see the data that they had about what products were doing to vulnerable users. We have seen this movie before with every single industry that has ever caused widespread harm while lobbying against accountability. The cigarette companies knew, the oil companies knew, the social media companies knew, the AI companies know. The question is not whether the evidence will come out. The question is whether we will have built a legal framework by then that makes it possible to do anything about it. And SB 3444 is an attempt to make sure the answer is no. So what should we actually want? Because I think it's important to not just be the person who yells about bad legislation for 20 minutes and then says, "Good luck, everybody, figure it out." I don't know, but I can guess. Number one, get rid of the threshold. One person harmed by an AI system should be enough to trigger accountability. We don't tell pharmaceutical companies they're only liable if their drug kills 100 people at once. The threshold exists because the companies know that AI harms tend to happen to one person at a time. The threshold is a calculated bet that AI will kill people retail, not wholesale. And this bill was designed to ignore exactly that pattern. Number two, independent oversight, not self-assessment, not a company grading its own homework. We don't let restaurants inspect their own kitchens. We don't let airlines certify their own planes. I hope. I don't know what's going on in America right now. Number three, mandatory protections for minors. Not optional, not whether and how. Kids are dying right now. An AI safety bill in 2026 without protections for minors is not an AI safety bill. I don't care that people think parents should be responsible, because when you say that, what you're actually saying is kids with irresponsible parents deserve to die more than kids without them. Let alone that AI is being pushed in schools and marketed as homework help, intentionally deceiving parents and students about the safety of the products. Number four, no redactions on safety critical information. A transparency report you can redact is not a transparency report. Number five, compliance has to mean something. Demonstrable, verifiable adherence to specific standards with real consequences for failure. And not just financial consequences, operational consequences. If your product is unsafe, it should not be allowed to be sold. And when you knowingly do sell something unsafe, you should face personal, legal consequences. Just like when you drive drunk. You know, things that may actually make someone in a corporation give a shit. 6, people have to be able to sue. Civil liability is the one mechanism that has consistently forced companies to change. SB 3444 is designed to take that tool away. Strip everything else out, and that is what this bill does. It makes it harder for people to sue AI companies. And given that's why they want it, it has to be part of why we fight to keep our rights to it. Thanks for watching this video. Sorry that Sam Altman probably wants to kill you, but like and subscribe. I'm so tired. I have an audio drama coming out this year that takes the real dangers of AI grooming and pushing people to hurt themselves or others and forces people to examine if they'd be so dismissive of it if it were a person causing the harm. It's called Welcome to Isaiah, and the crowdfunding for it went amazing, and you should follow the channel on YouTube and social media so you can stay up to date when it's released. And actually, if you're a fan of the channel, please do. It would mean so much to me because I love it. I'm having so much fun working on it. Well, and I'm also not. Watch the trailer. Episode 0 just dropped, and it's sick as hell. Apparently, I don't know if you've heard, but the economy is, like, bad. I've had $400 in patrons leave in the past 5 months because they can't afford it. So if the economy isn't killing you specifically, please sign up for my Patreon. I'm currently working on a few investigations, so if you want to follow along with those and get secret information not available anywhere else, you can sign up for a membership on Patreon or YouTube and see them happening live on my members' Discord. Please do. Sharing the video tells stupid YouTube that this video is worth watching. So after liking and subscribing, do me a cute, huge favor and do that. Send it to your mom, send it to your dog, send it to yourself. I don't fucking care. Check out my podcast, Respect the Dead, where we talk shit about dead people who sucked. Like Fred Christ Trump, Charlie Kirk, Elon Musk's granddaddy, the racist who made Dilbert, and sex offender, Coco the Gorilla. Coming up next week, we also have 4 episodes coming up for Pride. We have Matthew Shepard, Sylvia Rivera, and Howard Ashman, and one secret one. We're doing good episodes. We decided to do something a little more joyful for Pride, given how everything is comme ça. I also have merch. It's cute as hell. Look at it. Something tells me you look so good in it. Bear my load, bearing shirt and hat. Okay, thanks. Love you. Bye.